and start using this system. There are several things you could take away from this, like Sam said, and I hope honestly that if the system is not interesting or what you're looking for, that there's still something in this class that makes this worth your while. So if you see me looking over this way, that's where my slides are. If I'm looking over this way, that's where I see all of you are. And I will ask if you're comfortable to turn on your video so that I can see some faces. That just helps me get some nonverbals, which I can't get from a screen. So if you're comfortable and it's appropriate, turn those videos on. I'd love to see it. Okay, I'll start with why. You like Simon Sinek? I'm a big fan. If not, you can catch him on YouTube. Why are we here? I'm here because I have a personal mission that compels it. This was developed during Air Command and Staff College. My personal mission, which supersedes my day job and stretches into every part of my life, is to teach what truly matters to those who need it most. So I have decided that I know something that can help a lot of people. Most of the people who come to this class are people who really need it. So that's why I'm here. As a leader also, and as a human being, I also see in people that you have something that we all need. And I'll call it a spark. This is that thing that's innovative, the creative, the thing that can adapt and overcome. It's the passion. Everybody has that inside them, I think, that has, if something they could do if you had time. If I only had an hour, I could just do this. If I had 30 minutes, I could do that. If I had 3 hours, I could do this. Think about what that thing is, because that probably indicates your spark. And what we want to do is we want to create some white space in your schedule around that spark so that that thing can actually take root and flame up. Why do you care? If you're not into the spark thing, you need more throughput. You as a knowledge worker, you need to do more. Your Air Force, your country has asked more and more and more of you over the years. And as we have continued to ask more and more, we've seen people's stress go up and up. And now they're getting to the point where they're saying, you know what, it's just a job, I'll go find another one. And they're leaving, or we're having mental problems, all those things. So what you also need, in addition to doing more, you need less stress. So to answer these two questions, or two purposes, I've been taking data from a survey. Folks who've been in this class for about 2 years. I have survey data that shows me most people on average save between 30 and 60 minutes a day after implementing the system. That's time they didn't have before that now can use for other things. We're also talking about subjective throughput increase of about 25% with a corresponding stress decrease of 15 to 25%. Those are subjective, but those are real numbers from a lot of real people with real jobs just like you. So what's at stake here is potentially an hour of your day. It could be more than that, could be less, but that's what we're talking about. So a little bit about me. I'm not that important. What is important is that you understand why or how I use the system. So I'm the commander of 413th Flight Test down here in Hobart, Eglin, Duke area, Florida. We have a team of about 140 people, and we test 5 MDSs from anywhere from 2 to 4 separate locations simultaneously. We're a very virtual organization. I think of this as it's a mini group, kind of almost. Everybody's everywhere, and we have a very virtual organization. We've dived deep into teams. Anyway, that's separate stuff for another day, but we use email a lot because we have to. In the past, I was a pilot. I did some stuff. I was here at the 413th in 2012 as a test pilot, and I had the opportunity to be a short-term operations officer, like a month and a half opportunity. And as I saw that coming, my eyes got big. I go, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? That was my panic moment. Is at that time also being transparent, I was not doing well personally. And it wasn't all email's fault, but how I handled tasks and how I handled all of this stuff was really wrapped into it. I was always firefighting, always putting out fires. I would go home every night tired, beat, just absolutely beat. I couldn't tell you what I got done, but I worked hard all day, but I don't know. My wife would say stuff like, "You're not here when you're here." because I wasn't. I was taking everything home. I was trying to keep everything up here in my head, and it wasn't working. Then I read a book. My dad taught me to read, taught me how to learn from books. And I read a book, found this system, implemented it, and it immediately changed my capacity for throughput. And then as I've used it over time, it is, I wouldn't be the leader I am today. I wouldn't be the person I am. Not that I'm not that I'm that important or that special. I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for the system giving me white space. Went to ACSC, developed that mission. I did some more stuff after that. Now I'm back. I teach a class, and I'm also developing a cadre of coaches to help me spread this message. And my unashamed goal is to change the way the Air Force looks at email and interacts with it. Okay, here we go. In your mind, picture a task. Where does this task come from? Who do you get it from? How do you keep track of it? How do you remember you do it? How do you prioritize? How do you know what you did? Common themes I see. A lot of people use tools like whiteboards, Post-it notes, notebooks, lists. I've seen Word documents, Excel documents. Every time I think I've seen it all, somebody else pops up something and goes, hey, look at this. And I go, wow, I didn't think of that. People are very creative. The common thread, what we're trying to do is we're trying to use things outside of our brain to help us remember what's going on. That's the common thread. And we'll keep pulling on that thread throughout the class. My offer to you right up front, if you want to implement the system and you have like a hurdle, some people go, I'm not sure how to do this, I can't handle this. There's a lot of psychological baggage sometimes. I'm willing to help get you through that. In this case, I'll offer Sam, probably as your first resource, who has used it, understands the system. Even if she doesn't use the whole thing, she understands it. But if she can't help you, I will help you set this up. It's that important. I am going to give you handouts. I'm going to pull it up right here. In the chat, by the end of this class, I will post the slides and this handout. It's a Word document. The first page is some verbiage from the class, some definitions, some ideas, kind of task, how the system works, reminders. The second page, if you get done with this class and you say, you know what, I'm in, let's do it. Go to page 2, go to your Outlook, top to bottom, you hit OK at the end, you will have set up the system. It's that easy. It's not hard to set up. Third page, if you're really not familiar with Outlook and you don't remember where anything is, you can use that to remind you. And then the fourth page, there's a reminder on zero inbox and the 4 Ds, which I will teach you later. That's just a handy reference chart. That's what you're going to get. It's all for free. Okay, so that's what we're getting. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about what is the problem. I'm going to talk about the basics of 2 formal systems, Getting Things Done by David Allen, and then Master Your Now by Michael Linenberger. There's nothing really original in this briefing. I'm just teaching what I know in a way that hopefully connects with people. I'll talk about zero inbox as a concept, not as a system, but as a concept. We'll show you how to process email, and then I'll move to my Outlook and show you how this all works in action. Those 2 books right there, $30. Probably the best $30 I've ever spent in my entire life. Those 2 books, Getting Things Done, Total Workday Control. All right. Problem statement. Email is a problem. It was developed in the information age. Back when they invented the internet, somebody went, you know what? I could send you a letter, but on the internet. It's going to be great. Let's call it email. And it was designed to push information from one person to another person. Period, dot, the end. That's all email does, is it pushes information. As we push information, this creates discrete packets of information that are separated physically, electronically, and also across time. That's how email works. which leads to a couple of problems, like if you didn't get the email, you didn't even know there was one. Right? Oh, you left me out last time, you dirty dog. Send me an email next time. Okay, fine. What this leads to is we cast a wider net. To make sure everyone gets the email, we have to cast a wider net. Even though knowing we'll hit some people in there who don't need it. Unfortunately, the burden of an email is paid by the recipient. You as a sender can send the same email to 1,000 people or one with the same level of effort. But every time you send an email, somebody else has to pay for it with their time. That's a problem. It's inside, that's inherent to the way email is created. We still use it. I mean, it has a place in the digital space, but there's some chinks in its armor. Today, you are doing what's called knowledge work. We live in the age of knowledge, and your goal as a knowledge worker is to create value from information. There's so much information out there, you can't possibly know it all. So we use people to look through information, think, create, write a report, do a PowerPoint, do a class, creating value. I will foreshadow, I think we're approaching the end of the age of knowledge. We're approaching the age of automation, in which your job will be to, not for you to create value necessarily, computers will create value from information, and then we will be looking more at actioning that or determining what's important. So we're getting there. We're not quite there yet, but we're pretty close. Anyways, right now, as a knowledge worker, you have so many things you could do. You're making choices all day long. If anybody that works for me ever goes, "Hey, boss, I'm done," no, you're not. Here's some more work, right? There's always more work to do. Always, always, always. So this, as a knowledge worker, what you have to do is create boundaries around your work. Psychological study done with children on a playground, caregiver, kids, playground, no fence. The kids tended to stay pretty close to the caregiver because that represented safety. There's this unbounded space. It's a little scary out there. Same kids, same playground, you put a fence around it, those kids will run right up to the edge because now they know where the edge is. You as an adult still need that sense of boundary. Where's my edge? How far can I go? What's on my plate? But you have to create those around your work. How far do I go? Who else do I talk to? What does good look like? Those are very difficult choices to make. What this all leads down to, you have to be intentional with your time, because your time is extremely important to create value. Can't waste it. And whatever tools you have to be able to operate within this problem set and also the reality of knowledge work, which is what you're doing. So what do people do when they feel out of control? I've got so much going on. I can't possibly, I don't know, so much going on. I ask this in a class. Normally somebody will, so I drink wine, we go to bed, we quit, we go home for the day. And often I'll have somebody that says, you know what, I just write down a list. And I think most people probably would do that in reality. I've got so much to do, just let me write a list and I'll get after it. What you're doing when you make a list is you are creating boundaries. That's what you're doing. Even if you have 100 things on the plate, if you write them down, you immediately feel the sense of, okay, all right, this is a lot, but I'll get started. The problem is, can you make that list out of your email? As delivered, the answer is no. Outlook, out of the box, will not let you make a list that will give you this sense of boundaries around your tasks. A couple other brain things that will apply to email. Multitasking is a myth. It's been scientifically disproven. You cannot consciously do two things at once. What happens, old me, I'd have my Outlook up over here, I'd have something up over here, a new email. Open that, cool, new task, I'm awesome, I'm on this. Open it up over here. Read this report. I got to read this report, I want to print it. Go to the printer, it's out of paper. Got to go find paper. On the way to find paper, I run into Bob. Bob says, hey, did you get that other email I sent you? I go, oh, no, I didn't. Let me go back and look. Open up his email. So we spend all day being busy, not getting things done because we were trying to multitask. And what I'd wind up with at the end of the day is that trail of dead bodies across the bottom of my screen 3 draft emails, 5 uncompleted Excel sheets, and 22 open Internet Explorer windows. I come to the end of the day and you've got to go, oh, I got to go bury all those bodies before I can go home. What an annoying thing. Anyways, you can't do it, so don't. Let's figure out a better way. Your mind doesn't have a mind. I wish it did. There's nothing in your brain that's going to tell you to stop and get flashlight batteries on the way home from the store. You will remember when the hurricane comes, when the tornado comes, your power goes out, and you go, I should have got flashlight batteries. Nothing is telling you to do that. Your conscious mind is really good at focusing. I think kind of equate it to computer RAM. It's short term, dumps when you sleep, limited number of programs. I'm talking like old school RAM, like 64K, not the 8 gigabytes today. What it's really not good at is remembering things. Your conscious mind is terrible at remembering things. It's not what it's good at. There is a part of your brain that tries to remember things. And this part of your brain is it's kind of part of the limbic system, which is what controls the fight or flight response. So this piece of your brain doesn't have a concept of time. All it knows is, oh, you forgot something. Big dose of chemicals. Ooh, this is where you feel in your gut. Ooh, gotta remember to call Bob. Ooh, gotta read that report. Ooh, I gotta do this. That is not helpful. Those stress hormones and stuff are not good for you. And there's really no reason to be fight or flighty about most of the stuff that it reminds us of. Anyway, what we want to do is get that piece of the brain out of the puzzle, because we don't want those stress things. It's not motivating us. It's really detracting from performance. So, big picture here, when we ask our brain to do what it's not good at, we're setting it up for failure. If you spend all day trying to keep track of what your to-do list is in your head, you are going to fail. But it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're asking your brain to do something it's just not good at. So, why are those things on your mind? Why are you trying to remember those things? David Allen says it's because you haven't decided the intended outcome. Like, what is this thing? Where am I going with it? You haven't decided the next action step, or you don't trust the way that you keep track of those two things. Those things will be on your mind. If you're going on a trip, this is like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where to start, don't trust my map. Now, at the bottom, there's a quote by David Allen. This is one of my favorites. There's no reason to ever have the same thought twice unless you like having that thought. When stuff is on your mind, you are wasting creative energy because your brain is trying to remember those 5 things. It's cycling through those 5 things. Call Bob, pick up milk, blah, 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 blah. All day long, you're wasting effort, you're wasting brain power. Get those things out of your head. Think about it if you want to, but you're wasting time. The other thing here that you're paying, when we switch between things and we circle back on things, you are paying something called switching costs. It's a psychological term that basically you're paying brain currency to switch between things. Part of the not multitasking thing, you lose focus, you lose energy, you lose discipline, you use willpower. Anyway, all those things are bad, so we need to really get out of the habit of thinking through things more than once, or circling back on them unless we want to. So what if you had a clean mental slate? What if you lived in a state where you had thoughts by choice, you picked things to do by choice? I guarantee you'd be more productive, more creative, and less stressed. This is not a 24-hour state of mind for me, but I can get there because I get all this stuff out of my head into a system I trust. So now we're going to get into getting things done. So, okay, that sounds good. Sounds great. Here's telling me, how do I do that? Well, David Allen wrote this book, Getting Things Done, and he says that an effective task management system will do these 5 things well. Doesn't matter what it is, it will do these 5 things. Capture. How well does your system capture what comes in? How well do you clarify things, which is, what is this thing and what am I going to do about it? How well do I organize those things in a system I trust? That is key to getting that fight or flight response out of your system, because it knows if you don't trust your system, It knows you don't trust your system. It's in your brain. So you really have to trust your system. Then you reflect upon what's organized, and then you engage with something on purpose. And the key thing here to think about when we talk about time and task management, time is happening. Nothing you can do about it. What we're really doing is making choices and prioritizing how we use our time with tasks. So GTD is a principle-based system. Love first principles. I'm talking to AFTC engineering, I think, right? You guys probably love principles. When you understand what's the underlying structure, you build things on top of it that don't look like the original thing. So anyways, if you go look up getting things done, GTD, you'll find books, you'll find checklists, you'll find apps, computer stuff, because there's principles. Mike Linneberger came along and said, yes, I think I could do this in Outlook. And that's where we're going to go today. If you think about it, the inbox is going to help you capture constantly. It's doing it right now. It's happy. Just sit there, capture all day. We're going to use tasks to clarify emails, and then organize actions, and then the to-do bar, which you may or may not be familiar with, to reflect on those tasks. And then with that as the list, that's your boundaries. You put boundaries around it. That's your list. Then you engage. So we're getting closer to the end here. Outlook. Love or hate? I used to love email. Love me some email. I'm a natural introvert, which means that I will tend towards communicating in a written form. Doesn't mean I'm shy. Just part of, anyways, introverts will tend to want to write information down to communicate. Loved it. Then I got overwhelmed with it and started hating it. Now I put it in its place. It does have a place in our world, but I understand it a lot better. Now I'm kind of in the middle. Just is what it is. So it does provide a written record. Sometimes we need that. I did send it. You did read it. This is exactly what it said. Or as a good reference material. So sometimes you need that. Hidden strength, which I'll teach you how to do today. You can process it on your own time. You do not have to sit there with Outlook on the left screen. So if you're doing that now, minimize it now for the class, but in the future, you don't have to do that. You can process it on your own schedule if you don't do that already. It can reduce or increase confusion. I've done both of those. It's often overused. Email is not the right tool for a good chunk of the things that we use it for. And I used to think these two things here were going to get me my own book, but somebody already got them down, Hamster Revolution, which is also a good book. Not in this class, but that's another one. Email is overused. A couple of reasons why, as many reasons. Two of them, people that do not have a trusted system will often send too many emails because they have no other way to remember what's on their plate. So their response to getting a task is to delegate, right? Hey, what's the status of that? Oh, I sent it to Bob. What's the status of that? Oh, I sent it to Bill. What's the status of that? Oh, I sent it to Jenny. That's not okay. If your system to remember tasks is to email them to someone else. If you get too many emails, really think about how many you send. The natural response to getting an email is to hit reply. We're in the zone, right? Or that awful reply all button, which is the source of much consternation and hilarity sometimes. I do get an occasional something that makes me snicker, and that makes it worth it. But anyway, you can reduce the number of email coming into your inbox by about 25% by being very aggressive about how much you send. So think about the best way to communicate this information. Can I send it on Teams? Can I pick up the phone and call this person? What else? What about a relationship? What about people being people? Am I going to see this person in 2 days and I can just have the conversation then? So try to default away from communicating via email. If you can, that'll help you with how much comes in. But not everybody's going to do that, and you're going to have stuff come in. So what do? Welcome to the Air Force. Here's your computer. Here's your desk. Sit down. Get to work. Welcome to the team. You open Outlook, and maybe it was blank the first second you opened it. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Most people just go to work. and the inbox becomes a to-do list because they don't know any better. So I'm going to teach you better today if you're willing to jump in. But the big but here for the inbox as a task management tool, it is incapable of managing modern tasks and workload. Remember what I talked about? There's too much information, too much. To create value from that information, you cannot do that in the inbox as delivered. There's no way to prioritize tasks. I talked about how important prioritizing your time is. There's no way to sort. You can do some stuff with categories, a little bit of kludge code. There's no way to clarify actions. What is this thing and what am I going to do with it? You can't do that in the inbox. Then the inbox implies what? In. When I joined the Air Force, 2001, we had squadron secretary, and there was still paper trays on the desk. There was 3 trays. There was an inbox, an outbox, and I don't know what the third one was, but there was always 3, so I assume it was important. Secretary would pick up something from the inbox, he'd look at it, go, yes, definitely I should do something with this. Will they put it back on top of the inbox? No, because that's not forward progress. That's going backwards. You'd pick it up, file it, holy Joe, send it, put it in the trash. You had to do something with it, get it out of the inbox. So when you open an email and you go, yeah, ooh, this is a good one, yeah, and you close it, that's what you're doing. You're not moving forward. You're just putting it back in the inbox, okay? We want to get things out of the inbox so that we can do them. So some signs. If you're missing opportunities consistently, if you're reacting to tasks and email, if you're having trouble planning things in advance, those are things that affect you, your stress level, your throughput. But if you're a forgetter or a misplacer of tasks that come via email or other things, and your boss, your friends, your work partners need to remind you of those things, you're adding work to them. That's not okay. As a supervisor, as a manager, I have X amount of time. My pie slice is this big. Some portion of that pie is devoted to workload management. Like that's a fact of supervision and leadership, right? But I want that pie to be as small as possible. And if my pie gets big because you're not doing your job and tracking tasks, then that's a problem. If people are reminding you about things, or if you go home at night going, man, gee, I know there was something, I can't remember what it was. Something's not done. You take that home, that really affects other people. So this is a two-sided thing, you and other people. If any of that sticks on you, then maybe you have a problem, and we can help. The bottom line here with the inbox is you cannot do an email. They come with these really awesome titles like status update. That's my favorite. Status update. What an awful title for an email. There's maybe something in there that I need to do, but I have no idea what it is. So when I see status update in my inbox, I have to make a mental jump to what was that? I read that. Oh, Bob needs to tell me something and I need to do something and I have to go open it again. Because you cannot do that email. Email as delivered are things. What we need to do is transition those from things to verbs, nouns to verbs, because now your brain doesn't have to pay that switching cost to make a noun into a verb. You just go right to the verb and you go after it. So anyway, there's a real psychological thing that happens when you look down your inbox and you're going, you fall asleep, you just start scrolling, right? Because your brain is refusing to make the jump from noun to verb, noun to verb, noun to verb for all those emails. And you just ignore them and move on. Anyway, is what it is. So let's change them into actions. Zero inbox. By show of hands here, anybody have a consistent experience with an empty inbox? All right, Wendy Peterson, I see your hand. Awesome. Maybe you, if you have zero inbox, then you have a plan. Nobody gets there by accident. So in a group of 17 people here, we have one that I saw. If I ask a room full of 25 people, I may have one person raise their hand and maybe none, because most people don't have a method. It doesn't happen by chance. How are we going to do that? For me, empty inbox is that moment of go, right? Okay. That was out. I've got, okay, I'm in control right this second. Right, Wendy? That's just a sense of right? So if this is my Zen garden, empty, zero inbox. How do we do that? Well, there's several different ways. What I'm going to teach you here is a way to do it. Number one, this is one of those things you can write down and do this even if you don't like anything else in the class. After this class, go turn off all of your notifications. No ding, no mouse pointer change. The worst one is that system tray pop-up that says, hey, somebody likes you. You have new email. Look at me. Engage with me. Interrupt yourself. That's the worst one. You don't need that. You won't forget about email. What this is going to do is it's going to get you out of the I respond to email all the time and into the mindset of I control my email. I choose when to interact with it. If you work for someone who can get you fired for not responding immediately to an email, you can set up a rule to alert you to that person, that subject, that customer, that emergency. Like, that's okay if we have those things going on, but it's an exception rather than the general approach to email. So we turn off notifications. Next, you train your friends and your boss. I no longer instant message via IM. So I tell my people that, like, we don't go back and forth on email because it's really ineffective. And then stop doing it. We're going to choose when to process email. Most people have a natural kind of battle rhythm throughout their day. You will choose how often, maybe every 2 hours, maybe twice a day. It just really depends on your job, your throughput, your necessary activities, but you choose when to do that and how often. You process it, it's processed, you move it out, minimize Outlook. That'll feel really weird. If you're used to having Outlook on this screen, something over here, it's going to be very uncomfortable. But I promise you, your value to your organization is not responding immediately to email. And if you have trained yourself to believe that over the years, it's time for a little retraining. And it'll be a little uncomfortable. That's okay. New stuff will come in. What do we do with it? This is where we're going. If you like pictures, this is not a PowerPoint class, but it's a picture of your email. So assuming you've gone in your inbox and you have deleted all the stuff that doesn't matter already, there's two things left. There are emails that may be value reference, or there may be emails with implied tasks. So what we're going to do in this system, we're going to extract those implied tasks out of the email into the to-do bar. We're going to clarify those tasks because now they are not emails, they are tasks. We can turn them into verbs. We're going to clarify it. What is this? What am I doing with it? Then, because Outlook is really cool, it's electronic, we can also add when is this task going to be relevant in my future? So not only what is it, but when am I going to do it, which you cannot do in a paper planner. Then, everything in the inbox, don't need it. Got my tasks, out to reference, Zen Garden, done. It's easy, simple, nothing to it, right? Like words, we're going to create a clarified time phase automated task tracking and reminder system. And I'll teach you how to do that. We'll use the 4 Ds to process email. I'll show you a minute triage technique. I'll expose you to a new filing solution, which you could do by itself, or it works really well with the system. And then we're actually going to dive into creating the tasks and using that to-do bar. Okay, here is the 4 Ds. If you're in church and this was a sermon, this would be like the 4 R's, the 4 C's, 3 C's, whatever it is. This is the 4 Ds of email processing. When I sit down to process email, you can do this too. And not just us normal people. This is a best practice that is done by multi-million-dollar CEO companies. Like, this is how the heavy hitters interact with email. They sit down and we go, now I am processing email. That's what I started out this, and sometimes I still have to go, okay, Wayne, now you're processing email. Because even after doing this for years, I still want to go off on those little rabbit trails and create some more bodies to bury later. I still do it. It's discipline to get back to it. So starting at the top, 4 Ds. Can I delete this email? It's a valid first response. I go into every email hoping I can delete it and make it go away. If you're not sure, there's information of value there. It's a reference. That's fine. Don't delete it, save it. Not a big deal. But there's not a task there. So we read it and we move on. Number 2, okay, there's something I have to do, or there is a task, or there's something to be done. Am I the most appropriate person for this task? This is not Teflon coated Bob that I talked about beginning, just like, you can't get any task to stick on me. I'm going to delegate right out. This is not like that. Am I the most appropriate person for this task? If I'm not, then I will give that to whoever it's more appropriate to. And again, I don't have to do it. Third thing, okay, I can't delete it. I am the appropriate person, so I need to do it. Can I do it in about 2 minutes? This is tough. This is where that discipline of, I am processing email, but if it's a 1 to 2 minute task, it's not worth kind of adding to the system, so just get them done. This is a quick email reply. This is a quick check something on the internet, not get sucked into Facebook or whatever. Just a quick check, quick back over here, quick print, put on the table. Just get it done. If I get to the end of all this and I go, man, there's something here I've got to do, but it's going to take me more than a couple minutes, I'm going to defer that task to some point in time after I'm done processing email. And this is the point where we're going to actually create a task from that email. We're going to clarify it, we'll rename it, we'll talk about that next. And then I'm going to put it at some point in the future when it makes sense. So I have some timing options. I can defer to, like now, as soon as I have time, I'll just put it on the plate. I could defer to a specific date. The task is I need to call Bob, and Bob's not in the office till Friday. I can defer this task until Friday because that's the best time to do it. And you also have the option to review, defer to review. This is a really powerful one that we miss a lot of opportunities. For example, what if I told you today about a computer class at the end of April that you just desperately wanted to take? Right now, you're not going to be able to commit to that probably because you don't know what April looks like. Wouldn't it be great if you had a system where you could place that task in front of you at a point where you could look at it again? Like maybe, I don't know, the end of March or something. You can do that. Defer to review. I'll look at this again. The rule here is to process each email once. You're picking that up off the inbox. You're looking at it. You're processing it. You're not going to put it back on the inbox because that is not progress. And clarifying it actually can be challenging. But it's good. It's a good mental discipline. Okay, after we've processed, we've gone through the 4 Ds for every email, and I'll show you examples of that later. It's now processed. Like I'm done. I've pulled out the tasks. I've deleted some stuff. I've delegated some stuff. What's left is things that I'm going to move out. So what do we do with it? Old me, super organized, young Wayne Durkis. I was a master folder. I'm like 4 or 5 layers deep. I had a folder for every email, just about. Because I wanted to be able to go back and find those things. Email, I save email as a reference. That's why we save it. If you don't need it as a reference, then delete it. The 2 reasons we're looking for those emails, one, we're looking for that one email, that one OPR, that one policy announcement, that one thing from so-and-so, that one really good reply all oops mistake. We're looking for that one. Or we're looking for a bucket or a basket of similar emails. I want to look at all the travel policies. I want to look at all of the HR stuff. I want to look at whatever, you make up your own thing. That's why we're doing it. You can file emails one at a time in multi-layer folders. Generally speaking, I'll put out there that you're probably wasting time with that. I don't know what the average is today. How many emails do we get a day? 80, 200, 300? I mean, I don't know. Depends on your job. If it takes you 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds to file each individual email, it adds up over the course of a day, a month, a year. That's a lot of time you're spending folderizing emails. I'll also say, this is something I discovered, well, I think it's true, it's my opinion. I think when I did all that folderizing, I was trying to get a sense of control on the backside of the email. I got this email, aha, I've got you, I'm going to put you in a little bucket because I own you. That was a false sense of control because I was still reacting to it. Control comes on the front side with how you process it, how you handle it. spending a lot of time to organize on the backside is not really, for most people, the best use of your time. So what I'll throw out there, we can grab all of the email in the inbox. We processed it, and we drop it all into one folder called processed mail, which is what I do. This is revolutionary for a lot of people. Some people have been doing this for a while. I've done this for about 7 years, and I have never once regretted it, ever. I have lost a couple of emails because what you do, you dump it all into processed mail, and then you go use Outlook's native search features to go find those things, which I'll demonstrate later. Outlook's search features are really, really good, and they're really, really fast. A lot of times they're faster than you hunting and pecking through your folders. Anyway, so I'm not trying to sell this. It's an option. I think it's a good option. I lose probably 1 email a year, 2 emails a year maybe, that I just can't find, that I want to find and I can't. I lost my first one this year last week. Anyway, but the amount of time I've spent not foldering emails is well worth it. So that's an option. If you only have a minute, it can only take a minute. It's a corollary to the procrastinator's creed. If I come back from a meeting, I've got 5 minutes before the next meeting. Gee, wouldn't it be great if I had a way to triage my email? Well, you can do that using conditional formatting in your view settings. You can create rules, not rules, conditional formatting that will bring to your attention what's most likely to be important. This is not part of the formal system. This is something I picked up along the way, and it's really nice. So I'll come back and I'll look at my email between meetings. What's in red will be things from someone I've termed a boss, and what's in green will be things that are only to me. So those are 2 very easy criteria for emails that are more likely to be important. Somebody took the time to send it to me, or it's from a boss who gets the option to just send it to everybody, and then they have to figure out what's important. So what I'll do, I'll scroll down, I'll subject scan reds, I'll subject scan greens, open anything that I think is really important, move on with my day knowing that most likely I have not missed anything important. So there's a bonus slide in this presentation that will walk you through this. And the key thing there is it's conditional formatting in your main window. Okay, we're just about to the good stuff. Check time here. We're doing okay on time. And I will pause for the questions here in just a second. Or I'll pause to check chat in just a second. I see Sam's furiously typing there, so thank you. Isn't she great, by the way, Sam? She's fantastic. Okay, so now we go, okay, got it. I'm going to process the mail. I'm going to defer some tasks. How do I do that? Well, there's several ways to do it. The first one, to create a task from an email, you left click on the email in your inbox and you drag it down to the bottom left of your screen. Hopefully this is a bottom left motion for you. I don't know. Underneath your navigation pane, there'll be this mail calendar people tasks, or if you have the compact view on, it'll be the email, the little calendar thing, the face, and then tasks is a little checkbox. So left click, drop it on top of that. It will use the information in the email to create a new Outlook item called a task. Nothing will happen to your email. It's still in the inbox. You're just using that to create something new. So that's one way. Another way that's not on this slide, which I'll show you later, in Outlook, is at the top of your homepage is a little box that says quick steps, and you can create a quick step, which is a little mini macro to create a task from an email. And that's my preferred method. In the to-do bar, if you've got a phone call, a meeting, a drive-by task, you just want to add a new task to your system, because this will track things, not just emails, but also everything. You just click here and start typing. If you double click there, it'll open up a new task. And then don't forget, we also have, just like we have recurring calendar appointments, we also have recurring tasks. So we can recur tasks every Monday, first Monday of the month, Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever you want. Those are options. The second way you can recur is after I check off the task, X number of days, weeks, or months later, it pops up again I check it off, it pops up again. And I use that one for haircuts. So I forget to get haircuts, so I have a recurring reminder just pop up 10 days after my last haircut. Hey, it's about time to get that on the calendar. And this, I have to just pause here real quick. If I want to say more people, but everyone, I want to say everyone, but if more people used recurring tasks, it would greatly reduce the administrative burden of basically everyone who's involved with trying to get people to do the recurring tasks, like updating slides for a weekly meeting or sending in a report at the end of the month. There's no reason why you should remember that stuff on your own, and there's no reason why someone else should have to remind you. And this is how to do it with a recurring task. Okay, I'm going to pause here real quick before we get into, now we're into the system. So I'm going to pause real quick and look at the chat to see if there's anything to address here. Okay, Kathy said, I thought Outlook no longer has PSTs. You can still create a PST. I have my stuff all online, which I'll show you later. Not all of it. I keep most of my stuff on the cloud so I can get it through my phone. But you can have PSTs still. Paul says, do you save all your sent emails? Yes, I do. Every so often I go to my sent mail folder, I categorize them all sent, and then I dump them into the processed mail folder so I can find even mails that I've sent. And Sam had her own method there, and that's fine. Okay, then Cheryl asks, how do you handle the taskers that get added to your to-do list? There's only one to-do list, so this is the beauty of it, or not, depending on how your brain works. Those are your tasks. And we can talk here in a minute about how to kind of make those jump out at you a little more. But there is only one to-do bar, and all of your tasks get into there. And if that doesn't fully answer your question, you might have some nuance. You can ask more specifically later, and hopefully I can help. Okay, so we're to the point where I go, all right, I saw Wendy, I saw a hand.
All right, so you talked about not using your inbox as an IM folder. How do you handle confirming that you received an email or that someone else received an email, like, or a thank you? You know, I always feel bad saying thank you to an email, but it's a good way to let someone know that I've received the email or I'm doing something with it. But it does add a lot of emails back and forth. Is there a better way to do that? You can't like thumbs up an email.
One of the cool things about Teams is you can thumbs up a post, which is really, really nice. You get that feedback. I've handled this in a couple ways, and this is a good idea for you as a leader or as a follower to recommend or create business rules for your team. So like I've told my team, like my front office folks, my expectation is that if I send you an email, you got it and you're going to handle it. Like I don't need a thank you, I don't need a thumbs up, I'm just going to assume that. And then if time paints a different picture, then we'll figure that out. That's my going in assumption, is that you've got it and you're going to take care of it. I do the got it, thanks. I do that sometimes to different people. But if I trust them and I trust their email, then it really is a waste of time. But sometimes it's needed and sometimes it is polite. So it just kind of depends. But it's definitely an area where having a standard is good, because if the standard is that we say thank you or I've got it and you don't get that, then that's your cue that something's wrong or might be wrong. So I think having a clear standard is good expectations. Okay, thank you, good question. All right, we're going to create a task. Now we're into the system. All this stuff leading up to this is now the system. There's 3 things in a task that are needed for the system to work: the task subject, the start date, and the priority. So we're going to go through each of those in order. The task subject, start from the top, is there. If you create a task from an email, it will helpfully import the subject of the email as the subject of the task. As we talked about earlier, most often the subject of most emails is really not that helpful. It's not action-oriented, it's not date-oriented, and you've got to sift through there to figure out what the actual thing is. So normally you'll find yourself replacing the subject with something that's more helpful. So what goes into the task subject? We're going to start with the context. And the context is, if anything, what surrounds this task. And this is something you can kind of work out for yourself. The only requirement is if there's a due date for the task, that's in the context. And we'll talk about the due date field in a minute. But if you have a due date, you put it right up front. After that, some other context you might have. I use initials for a few key people that surround me that I have frequent tasks for, because it just helps me track as I'm looking down the thing. Oh yeah, that's for him. Oh, that's for her. SIPR, if it's a task to do on SIPR, that might be a context. I use E: for email. It's an email response task. R: for read and review. C: for call. F: for follow-up. If you want to be a master blaster delegator and you email someone a task, copy yourself, create a follow-up task from the CC email. You've got everything you need to know right there to be a master follow-upper on people. They'll never see you coming, ever. Like, oh man, I thought you forgot about that. Nope. You don't have to tell them your secret, but it's a really effective way to do that. Anyway, so that context, what's required to do the task, if anything. And the whole purpose is just help you while you're reflecting. After that, the verb comes next. Context first, verb. Must start with a verb because now we are transitioning to an action. I am action focused, I'm action oriented, I'm going to do something. I'm going to create, write, print, schedule, call, whatever it is, it's a verb. And then after that, a little bit of stuff, you know what the task is, but you don't need to write the whole novel. You only got a limited room to work with. So there's a little bit of art there, but that's your subject. So a couple sample developments here. Get an email that says new TPS report cover for the Bobs. Not helpful, right? What is this thing? What am I going to do with it? What does it do? We could make a task from that says do 13 SEP, update TPS report cover sheet. Pretty easy. It has the verb, an update, and then a little bit of information to remind you what to do. Another one there, follow up with Vicky on annual appraisal status. That one's a better starting point. Perhaps F:VW, the Vicky whistle, complete all annual appraisals. That's a task that could be short and sweet on my list to look down. Some other examples there, we don't need to go into those, but what we're doing, context, verb, amplifying information, keep it relatively short and sweet. Next, right below that is the start date. This is the first of two ways that the system both mirrors modern work and also departs a little bit differently from most other systems I'm familiar with. I don't know everything. Reminded on a daily basis how little I know about a lot of things. But anyway, you as knowledge workers, the way you do work and the way you mentally schedule things is you know when you want to start. Having the end in mind, yes, it's due this day, but when am I going to start? So this is where we're going to place those tasks at some point in the future where they are relevant. When do I want to start this task? That day, when you put the start date, this is when I want this to pop up, when I want to start. It'll show up on your to-do bar. It'll be underlined. Hey, look, I'm fresh. Remember, I'm new. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it that day, but it'll give you one day reminder that it's new. After that, it'll just be on your to-do bar until it gets done. Now, let's talk about deadlines here real quick. I talked earlier, the context, we put the due date in the beginning of the context. There is a due date field. Some of you are just, I can feel it, just gonna want to use that due date field. There are some situations where that might be appropriate in a front office group or a commander's action group, maybe. But the thing with that deadline, here's the deal. If you're using that due date as part of your system, all of your tasks need a due date. And the reality of life is that as a knowledge worker, most of your tasks don't have due dates. Some of them do, but a lot of things are just on your plate. Read this, write this, prepare this. They're just on the plate. If you force yourself to create a fake deadline for every task, you're going to miss them because they're fake, and you know they're fake. It's like setting your watch 5 minutes ahead. Like, you know, you set your watch 5 minutes ahead. You're not going to be any earlier because you know that. Same thing. Fake deadlines create guilt, and they reduce the impact of real deadlines. Where you're training yourself that time doesn't matter. And I did 2 years in the program office. Like Sam mentioned, fake deadlines everywhere, all the time. Because every time you take an action item, one of the fields on the action item is due date, right? Because we're trying to close the loop. We're trying to, we're forcing action. If it doesn't have a date, then it doesn't get done because it's not important, I guess. I don't know. But then, okay, we need to get this done by 11 September. 11 September rolls around. You go, okay, where's this thing? Oh, well, we didn't get to it. Let's just make that to October. And everybody kind of nods their head and goes, yeah. What on earth are we doing? Doesn't make sense. Anyways, and then you wonder why nothing gets done on time because we train ourselves daily that time doesn't matter. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. I apologize. Putting a pilot in a program office was really good for me. I learned a lot. Okay, so we're not going to use the due date. If you feel like that's appropriate for your job, it might be, but all of your tasks would have to have due dates. After that, we're going to use the calendar. Just side note, use the calendar to show where you physically have to be, not to schedule your work. And this is probably something that most people don't do. There was a couple of task management systems back in 80s, 90s that really focused on scheduling important work. That's blown up by the modern environment. That'll fail at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you need office time to do stuff, block out office time and then go to your to-do bar and pick out what matters. The third thing we need to do is get priority. Outlook says priority. I can't change what it says, but I want you to think in your mind urgency. We live, and this is the second way that this system really mirrors modern work. We live in an urgency-based economy. So what we're going to do here is we're going to focus on cleaning out high urgency tasks so that then you can focus on things that have value. So when you set this priority of high, normal, low, high priority, he calls these critical now. These are tasks that I would stay late today to finish. Must get done today. Really must get done today. Not like to get done today. This is where you limit those to as few as possible. You should have no more than 3 to 4 high priority tasks at any given day, or you won't be able to get them done. Normal priority, he calls these target now or opportunity now. These are things that are relevant. If I had time today, this would be awesome. But if I don't get to today, maybe next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 10 days, it could slide. And then low priority, low urgency, he calls these over the horizon tasks. These are things that are not important right now. They might be someday. For example, your defer to review tasks I talked about earlier. And I set these to show up on Monday if I use them. And then they pop up. You go, maybe I'll kick you out in the future, or maybe I will move you up in priority. The body of the email or the task is available. If you created a task from an email, the email text will be there. You can use it to brainstorm. You can drag in attachments. You can add tables, pictures, text, journal progress. It's available. It's a good way to collect things that surround the task in with the task. It's not perfect, and it's not the best way to do that in the modern work environment. But if you're not doing anything, you want to collect some things together, this is a great place to start. Because then when you open the task, it's all right there. This is what it looks like. This is a to-do bar sample. This was snipped on 22 Jan of 18, and I know that because it's underlined. So on 22 Jan 18, I had one high priority task to prepare for an email class, which is probably why this got snipped. And then I had several normal priority tasks. So in this case, also what you'll see is this, what the author calls fresh prioritization. And this also mirrors modern work. It's sorted by start date descending, which is fancy for older stuff fades to the bottom, which doesn't mean it's not important, which doesn't mean you don't do it, but often the new things coming in the top do tend to get our attention because they're fresh, because they're new, because they're higher priority, whatever reason. As things fade down to the bottom, you now have a tool to say, oh man, you know what? I wanted to do that 2 months ago and I didn't get to it, so maybe it's not important anymore. Or maybe I need to put the start date today so it moves back up to the top. It's a really good tool for self-introspection. So here, when I snipped this, this was my list. This was the boundaries of my work. And it must have been a good day, only 8 things or whatever that is. It's phenomenal. Wish I could go back to that, but that's it. There's my boundaries. There's my fence. There's my to-do list out of email. Everything in the to-do bar is clickable. You can click the priority, which is that column just to the left of the subject, and change the priority. You can click in the subject and change that. You can click the start date and change that. And if you left click on the little flag at the right, it marks complete and it goes off your to-do bar because it's now to done. Sweet. How this works. I show up, I process mail. This gets me up to speed on people that came in early or stayed late. I have a fresh, clean slate on the day. Today I didn't actually get to that till about noon. So I did my triage earlier, and then eventually I processed at noon. Review to-do bar. Check for things that are coming up on due dates, things that are out of place, things you need to bump up in date. And then high priority tasks, we want to focus on those early in the day, review those every hour until they're done. Because those are the things keeping you from going home. This is really important. If you have 3 things that you have to do and then you can go home, I'm not saying you won't do anything else, but those are the things that are keeping you at work. So maybe you do those things and then, anything else is bonus. Normal stuff, review once a day, just to make sure it's fresh, low priority. I talked about that earlier. You can move it up or defer to the future. I choose something to work on. I minimize Outlook and I go do it. If I take a phone call, I have people come by the office with stuff. I'll just type it in, quick add to Outlook. Same with meetings. And then I process email several times a day when I have time and I can get to it. And then I ignore it. When I'm not processing it, I ignore it. And I encourage you all to do that as well, because it is not your most valuable task. It's a tool. So if you want to make the change, here's how to do it. Decide your filing solution. Am I going to do my folders, or am I going to go to one processed mail? Or maybe there's somewhere in them both. You have a couple folders that you really need, and then everything else goes in processed mail. You're going to triage your email. If you have less than 9,600 emails, you are not the worst I have seen. But if you have more than about 200 emails, let's just be real and acknowledge you're probably not going to get to those emails. If you have 1,000, 500, 1,500, you could work a couple weekends maybe, but reality of life is you're not going to get those things, and they represent what are now lost opportunities. But they're already lost, so we're going to move on with a forward-looking mindset. How to do that? Triage. And there's a bonus slide that talks more about this. We're going to clean up folder. This deletes all the threaded responses, which would be like reply all chains. It'll just keep the most current one. Bulk file before a date you choose. We're going to take some control back. This is my personal opinion, which is based on several years of observation, and also my work, my squadron on teams. Significantly, the lifespan of most information in email is about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, it's probably a missed opportunity or not relevant anymore. So what I'd recommend, and what the author recommends, is to go back X number of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, acknowledge you are not going to get to those emails, grab them all, move them out, then focus on processing what's left. So then among what's left, we're going to sort by bosses, filter to me, Again, those are more likely to be important or critical. And then process the remaining emails as you have time. And at this point, the focus is to get you to a point where you can move forward with a fresh zero inbox and the system operating. We've got to get you to the point where you can do that. At this point, all you're trying to do is just extract these tasks as fast as possible. You're going to process 400 emails, 200 emails, whatever it is. That's the goal. Don't make judgments about what you are or are not going to do at this point. Then, zero inbox, maybe you make a task list. Now you've got that list though. You've got your list, you've got your fence. So now you're going to defer, delegate, delete, prioritize that list. You have X number of hours in the day. As a military member, my X might be bigger than your X, or it might not. I don't know, but we all have X hours in a day. I like my X to be about 8 to 9 because that's healthy for my family and me. Usually it's like 10, but that's okay. Anyway, there's X. Your boss should be willing and able and maybe even eager to help you prioritize your work. Give them an opportunity to do that. And then you might also have to make some choices about what you are or are not going to do and accept the consequences. But that's okay. We're moving forward. Clean slate, new opportunities. It's going to be better in the future. This is a habit change. Expect about 3 weeks. They say 3 weeks for habit changes. That's legit. It'll take you some time to just keep getting to focus on, oh yeah, I process email. Oh yeah, I don't live in my email. Oh yeah, my list of tasks is the to-do bar. All that stuff takes time and it's habit change, but it's worth it. So I'm now going to pause for questions before I go demo and look back here.
I'm going to throw my boss under the bus for a joke, Colonel Durkis. He just texted me and informed me that all of my priorities are number one.
Oh, no. I hate that.
But he's a nice guy, I've heard, though. Actually.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
All right, let's see here. What are your thoughts? This is from Wendy. What are your thoughts on shared task lists for items that require inputs from multiple people? This is a good question, and I'm gonna go to admit I've never done shared tasks. I have seen it done. You can assign tasks in Outlook, and if you have an org box, there's a way to. Again, I'm a little rusty because I haven't done it. There's a way to put tasks so that multiple people can see them. I would say if everybody's using this system, if everybody knows what tasks are, everybody's working out of it, it's probably a really efficient way, a really efficient, transparent way to know who's doing what and to pass things around. If you got one person who's not all in on it, though, the whole thing falls apart. So it really depends on team expectations. And I'll be honest, I suspect that forcing someone to use, say, this system is going to be difficult. Like, this really has to be something that people want to do. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting them all the way, and it's just not effective. So that's really the key: is your entire team on board with your plan, and it might work. It can be done. So here's what we're going to talk about. Wendy, I appreciate your questions. Thank you for asking those. Okay, I'm now going to demonstrate this stuff on my computer, and I've got 18 minutes left. I shorted myself a few, so I'm just going to charge into this. Hopefully leave some time for questions. Okay, quick orientation. On the to-do bar, on the right side of my screen, you'll see the to-do bar. How do we get that? We go to the view menu. Just to the right of reading pane is to-do bar. You drop that down, you click tasks, and boom, there's your tasks. That is your to-do bar. As delivered, Outlook usually has the calendar there. I turn that off because it's not that helpful. If I want to see my calendar, I'll hover over the calendar button, and it will tell me what's happening for the rest of today if I want it. Turning off notifications. Again, If you don't do anything else, please consider this. Go to File, Options, which makes sense. It's a mail option, which also makes sense. And then it's this message arrival bit right here. You want to uncheck all 4 of those boxes. You will not forget you have email. You will just eliminate the distractions that come from every single email you get. Those are client-side settings, so if you go to a new computer, you'll have to do that on the new computer. If you go back from this and you say, I'm in, I want to do this, you open your to-do bar with your view menu. And in the right-hand side of the screen here, I'm going to right-click, and there's this View Settings button in the to-do bar. I'm going to go to that page 2 of the Word handout and just go top to bottom, and it'll tell you what to set up in all these settings. When you hit OK at the end, it will look something like, well, it should look exactly like this. We've got our task icon, priority, task subject, start date, and then the checkoff flag. On the left side here, we've got my online cloud account, Wayne.Durkis, with the inbox. Inside of the inbox, I have created a processed mail folder. So that is where I dump all my processed mail. Me personally, I've set it up to auto archive after 6 months. It'll auto archive from processed mail to an archive folder. And that keeps that online thing kind of lightweight enough that my phone can handle it. But all of those things are available on my phone. Any email I've sent or received in the last 6 months, I can pull up on my phone. At the bottom of that, whatever the folder is that you're looking at, each PST or the online thing will have this search folders tab, whatever it is. That's where you create those, what looks like folder structure to replace that, the folders you had before this. You click there, it'll look for that basket. Hey, what's the basket? And it'll show you the basket. So let's process some mail. We'll do categories and we'll come back to that. All right, so I'm sitting down on my computer. I'm now processing mail. You might need a little sticky note that says, don't get distracted or something. First thing I do is I go to this cleanup button just left of delete. I go cleanup folder. That will delete all the threaded responses. You can save probably 10 to 15% of your email right off the top of the bat by using that. The more that deletes, the more you're using email as instant messenger. So that's a good sign that you might be doing a lot of reply all. Then I go at the top and I just start down. As I open and look at things, I'm thinking about categories, because categories are things I could search for later to create those baskets of emails. So if you want to create some categories, you can go to all categories and then new and just start typing them in. So most people, generally speaking, when I coach people through this, will create categories that kind of mirror their first layer of folders: manpower, supervision, travel, I don't know, reading, whatever it is. And you can't do multi-layer search folders. But again, we're going to use that basket and then look in that basket for what we're trying to find. We'll search stuff later. So as I'm processing, I'm thinking about categories. Does it need a category? I'm thinking about rules. Rules are a great way to make your computer do your work for you. As I'm processing, I go, man, I always delete emails from this, or I always categorize this email as this, or I always just ignore this and move it out. You can create a rule that does that for you. So rules take 3 steps. First step is the trigger. Second step is the action. Third step is exceptions. You hit the finish at the end, and you've got a server-side rule that will be watching for you. Rules can do a lot. Some of the things in there are not turned on, but they can really do a lot for you. So I encourage you to check that out. Again, if you're always doing the same thing, see if you can make a rule to do it for you. So then I'm processing, thinking about categories, thinking about rules. Start at the top. I'll just open this up. If you're on a phone, you might have trouble. You can zoom in. I'll just talk through these. It's a message from Tech Sergeant Trainer. Sir, I don't know who your UTM is. Can you put me in touch with them? Okay, so my going in position. Number 1, can I delete this? I could, but it would be rude. I'm not that high and mighty, so I'll help this guy out or gal out, whoever it is. Second, can I delegate this task? The task here being to put this person in touch with my UTM. I could delegate that to my UTM, but that's the same level of effort as just answering the email. So I'm down to do. So this is a do task. Can I tell them who the UTM is in 1 to 2 minutes? Yes, I'll reply. I might even add the UTM on there as a CC, and that one is done. So can't delegate, can't delete. I can do it. That one's done. Hot, MRSA at the gym. This one might be a subject screening, delete. There's a major outbreak. I heard it on Facebook. It must be true. Thanks, that's a useless email. I am going to delete it. Unless I go to the gym. Maybe I'll just not go to the gym, but anyway. That's a deleter for me. I work out at home. Hot. Love me some hot emails, don't you? Anybody favorites? Hot. Okay, it's from the boss. We need to roll out the new org chart soonest. Please pull together whatever you have done. Show it to me after staff meeting tomorrow. Okay, going in position is deleting. Can I delete this email? Not without some consequences. Can I delegate this one? Probably not. It's my task to work on this org chart. Can I do this in 1 to 2 minutes? No, because he wants to talk to me tomorrow. So now I'm down to defer. So the task here being to, I don't know, create new org chart, and I'm going to show it to him tomorrow. So that's my clarify step. In my head, I'm clarifying what is this, where am I going to go with it? I need to defer this task. So I'm going to left click, drag down here to the task icon, let it go. The email will stay in the inbox and it creates a task from it. Here's the subject, not helpful. What is helpful? Context, verb, and then amplifying information. So this one has a context. It's called a due date. So due 3 Feb, and then I just came up with my task earlier. Create new org chart. So this is my next action step. Yes, I'm going to have to show it to him tomorrow, but if I have the org chart done today, then that's not a big deal. So fix the subject. When do I want to start? Well, how about today? If I don't do this today, it's not going to be done and ready for tomorrow. So if it must get done today, it's a high priority task. So I'm giving myself a high priority task for today. Hit save and close. And there it is right there at the top under the high priority, urgency, create new org chart. Now, old me would have gone off to work on that and gotten lost. New me stays focused, right? Okay, I processed that email. I will now move to the next email. New personnel policy release. It's a good one. There's a policy memo, there's about personnel folders, there's an inspection, and there's a memo to read. Okay, so I'm going down my list. Can I delete this? Not if there's an inspection, I try to keep those going. Can I delegate this? Maybe if I have an HR manager. Can I do this? Maybe my next task, I said, you know what, I don't know, I'll just go read the memo. So maybe in 1 minute, I'll go read the memo and decide what to do. Or I could just admit defeat on all things HR and create a task to call HR. I showed you the left click and drag method. I'll show you the create task up here at the quick steps. This is where this is. If you go to create new, you can create a little mini macro that'll create the task. So left click that, create a task from the email. Subject, first of all, I said, I quit, I give up. They offered for me to call, so I'm going to call. Call Wing HR on inspection. And in this case, my context call is also the verb. It's the way I do it. So it does start with a verb, call. When do I want to start this? I don't have to do it today. I'll put it on the plate for today, and then we'll see how soon I get to it. Normal priority, doesn't have to get done today. Save and close. And there it is right there. Now let's say I look at my list here and I go, you know what? That's not really that important. How about if I do that tomorrow? So I'm going to change the start date to tomorrow, hit enter, and it goes away. It is no longer on my to-do bar because I have said I don't want to start until tomorrow. Now tomorrow I'm going to get an Easter egg from this class that's going to pop up underlined and say, hey, look, call Wing HR. I'll delete it. No big deal. But Outlook knows it's there, but I don't need to be tracking it because it's not timely and relevant. Okay, so that's how it goes. So just one by one, process, process, process. When I get to the bottom, Control A, selects everything, left click, drag to process mail, and I dump it and I'm done. I'm not going to move these because I use these for the email class. That's processing mail. I mean, that's it. Process mail, delete, delegate, do, defer. Deferred tasks get put over here in your to-do bar at a time in the future at which they're relevant. Outlook feeds those tasks into your hopper, into your to-do bar when you have said you want to start them. And at any point, you have the control to change title, change the start date. And then if I check it off over here, say I got this 3Fab create new org chart done, I'll left click that and it comes off my to-do bar because now I've marked it done. All of those tasks you do, have done, or in the future exist. They're Outlook task items. You can go to the Outlook task folder and find all of those. They're all there, but they're not right in front of your face because they're not relevant. Let me check and make sure I covered everything I was going to cover. Okay. I'm going to go one more slide and then we'll wrap up for questions. So what I hope you have gathered from this is the type of work you're doing is different. You're doing knowledge work. If you're snowed, you're crushed, there's hope. And that hope lies in a formal approach to email and task management. If this approach doesn't resonate with you, there are other things you can do. There are other systems out there. I'd encourage you to find one and use it. This idea, if it sounds good now, is going to sound good for about 24 hours, and then it's going to start to fade out of your brain. Again, your brain is not good at remembering things. So you need a hook in the next day if you want to implement the system. That hook could be you just go do it. It could be you schedule something with a friend. Say, hey, let's do this together next Tuesday. All right, we're doing it. That'll be a hook. If you want accountability and you would like to email Sam or me, and just say, hey, in 2 weeks, can you follow with me to see if I did it? That might be a hook enough, and either one of us will create a task and then follow up with you in 2 weeks or whenever. If you need a coach to get through this, I already volunteered Sam as your first coach. If she can't help you, then please reach out to me because this is absolutely important. We're talking about people wasting 25% of their life. That's what we're talking about, and that's not okay. You know people I don't know. I spread this class via network marketing, peer-based. It's peer-based. People telling people about it, and then I talk to them. So if you know other people, other organizations who would like this class, let me know. Like I said, and if you're a person who thinks maybe I'll be that person who could teach this, let me know that too, and I'll get you started on being a coach. Okay, I didn't leave myself as much time for questions as I wanted to. I will answer questions until there's no more questions, so don't worry about time. Anybody who needs to drop off, know if I'm not offended. We said half hour was the end point, so do what you got to do. So I'll switch over here to questions. And I'll just say thank you for your time and attention. And Sam, you've got the participant list. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. There are a couple JSF SPO members that are not on the global, but I reached out to their supervisor who and asked for their contact info. But if you're on here from JSF, I do need your info. Jessica Wright said she'd send it to me as well.
And what I'll use that email for is I'll send you a follow-up email from today, and then I'll also send you a follow-up email in a month, in about a month to ask for you to fill out a survey if you did the system or not, just to get that background experience on what people are actually saving. So I'm going to go over here to the chat window first. Okay, we talked about shared tasks. Okay, do you select the cleanup? Another question from Wendy, Rockstar Gold Star question asker for the day. Did you select the cleanup folder or cleanup conversation? Okay, so I do cleanup folder. There's 3 options. You can drop that down. It's conversation folder and subfolders. I go for that middle one. Cleanup conversation will clean up the email you have selected, and folder does everything. So when I go to my inbox, I want as few emails in there as possible. So I'll clean up the folder. Now what that does, it will actually delete any emails that are like extra layers. You email me, I reply, you reply, you reply, you reply, you reply. You hit cleanup. As long as there's no branches in the email, like somebody added an attachment or we changed the subject or we added new people, it will keep branches. I don't know exactly the logic how it does that, but I've never had trouble with it deleting anything that I didn't need deleted. So those go right to your deleted mail folder, and they are emails that you don't have to process. What that does is it also gives you advantage going into your inbox knowing that every single email is different and needs to be handled individually. You're not looking at, potentially 32 separate responses to the same query and having to process them all individually. What you do have to do is remember to scroll down far enough in the email to catch up on what you missed. And as long as you understand you need to do that, which I relearned that lesson about 3 days ago when I didn't scroll down far enough, then that's the only trick. Okay, are you aware of any limitations to the archive folder, searching, etc.? From Paul. There's no limitations to archiving. The only limitation at all is that if the email is in the archive PST, that's where the email is. So if you do this search, search up here at the top, it's not going to dig down there by default. You can go to this current folder dropdown and say, I want you to search all mailboxes or all Outlook items, and maybe that would pull in your archive box as well. I'm not sure. What I normally do is I just search for it, and if it's old, I'll go to the archive folder and I'll search for it there. There are really no limitations other than that's where it is. Now Outlook is, this version of Outlook is advertised to be able to handle a file of up to 25 gigabytes, like your PST. Long time ago it was 1 gigabyte. Anyway, they claim it'll handle a pretty big inbox. I don't trust it. I don't know. I just like less. And I don't really regret that too much. Okay, any other questions? Anything I didn't address? Anything I need to circle back on? Anything else I need to demonstrate? Files. Okay, yep, let me upload those real quick while we're waiting on anyone else to do the questions. All right, there's the files. Thanks for reminding me. Again, go to the Word document, page 2, if you want to set this up, and then reference the slides if you want to later on. So it looks like everybody's had enough, which is fine. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Mr. Tierney, for bringing me in and letting me talk. Hopefully this can make a difference in at least a few people in the room. And if you have a success story or you have more questions later, feel free to send me an email, and I'll get back to you when I process at some point in the future.
No, I'll just say thanks, Colonel Durkis, for doing this. I have marveled at Samantha's ability to do this since she came over to the AFTC, and she's been a model for this. and when she mentioned you, and we said, well, maybe you could do it. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you are busy. So for all of us, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. Best of luck, and I'll look forward to hearing from some of you eventually if you have good success or trouble. Thanks. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thanks.